Be sure to subscribe to the Healthcare Security Cast so you don't miss a single episode. We're on multiple platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Audible, just about anywhere where you can listen to a podcast. For links to all of these sites, for links to join the Healthcare Security Cast community groups on LinkedIn and Facebook, or if you're interested in being a guest or being a sponsor, you can find all of this through one link. Check out our link tree at linktree/Brian Hamilton. That's linktr.ee/Brian, B-R-I-N-E, Hamilton. Again, that's linktr.ee/Brian Hamilton. And before we get into the show, I just want to thank our sponsors, 3D Network Technology. Reliability is our core value. Visit 3dnetworktechnology.com. And Genetech, delivering security strategies for healthcare. Visit Genetech, that's GENETEC.com. And also the Change Execution Group and 360 Life Transformations. Visit 360lifetransformations.com.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brian Hamilton.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast. We're joined today by Bill Deutsch. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Brian. Great to be here.
Awesome. Now, I always like to start off by learning more about the person that we're speaking with. So I'm going to ask you the profound, deep question. Who is Bill Deutsch?
Who is Bill Deutsch? Well, let's see. I'm a father of six. I have been married to my wife for well over 30 years, and I've been in the physical security industry for over 20 years.
Excellent. Oh, six kids. Good for you. Thought I had my hands full with four, but
You do.
All right. Awesome. Well, I guess the next thing we'll focus on is your career. You said you had over 20 years of experience in the physical security field. So can you walk us through your career path and let us know what's gotten you to the point that you're at now?
Sure. Well, I started, like I said, many years ago with a small security integrator. Took that job just to pay the bills. And I like to date myself by telling people that when I started that job, I had a bag phone in my truck and a big magnetic antenna that I tossed up on the roof every morning. But that was my first introduction to security. After that, I went to work for Medico Security Locks, and I think that's really where the passion for the industry and the vision took hold. Just met a lot of good people there who were very very well educated, very passionate about the industry, and there was a real security culture there that they really passed on. So that for me, in terms of the industry, that's where things really started to take off.
Excellent stuff. Now, obviously, over that time, I'm sure there's a lot of people who helped you out and offered you guidance. Who are some of the people that helped you get to where you are in your career?
Well, in terms of the people that are most helpful, I think I would have to start with my dad. He taught me the single most valuable lesson I've ever learned in my career, which is how to put in a hard day's work. So that's a lesson that's kept me going for many years. He was also a construction inspector, though, and he was the nightmare construction inspector that you hear all the stories about, right?
Right.
And I used to joke with him about it. And he would tell me stories sometimes, and I'd say, Dad, somebody's going to kill you one day. But he sat me down one day. He told me very seriously. He said, look, people's safety depends on the job that I do. So I have to take it very seriously. And that was another lesson that I carried with it. He just wasn't going to compromise when it came to somebody else's safety. And that's been very valuable influence as well. I mentioned Medico, too many people there to even, if I start to call people out, I'll leave somebody out, and that won't be nice. But currently with Richmond Security, the company that I'm with now, the owner president and I are kind of Medico alumni. So we had that connection. Being able to be in a smaller company and work very closely with the president is that's been very valuable because I'm just watching how Steve Wilkinson, the owner of the company, interacts with people, watching the way he treats employees, manages the business. That's been that in itself has been a great education for me as well.
Excellent. Well, today our conversation is going to focus largely on physical security, especially as it pertains to access to hospitals as a result of the pandemic, and also we'll talk about how you see things playing out in the future. Now, from your perspective, what were some of the most impactful changes to access to hospitals from a procedural standpoint? And do you think we'll return to the previous model once this pandemic is behind us?
Well, certainly the single biggest impact has been on the screening process to enter a hospital. Up until the pandemic, you could walk through the main entrance of a hospital and go a lot of places unchallenged, and they were trying to create a welcoming kind of open environment. But obviously now that the screening process at the entrances, where checking temperatures, presenting screening questions, handing out armbands, to indicate that somebody's been screened. That has completely changed the way you just enter the facility. And I do think that is with that some form of entry screening is going to be with us for a long time to come. It will get more efficient. It has been getting more efficient. I think probably the temperature scanning at least the screening questions upon entry, the some of the restrictions to the number of visitors, those things I don't see that ever going back to what it was pre-pandemic. But again, I do believe it has become and will become more efficient.
Okay, now, and in terms of your security teams, the security that you've seen there, what are some of the things that you've experienced success with in terms of implementing is procedure or a technology or a practice of any type?
Well, the temperature screening, we've had some very good success with that because that's a big bottleneck. If there are really at least two issues that happen if you're trying to check everybody who enters a facility for elevated temperatures. Number one is you slow the traffic down substantially. Number two, and maybe more importantly, is you kind of it's hard to maintain a social distancing when you've got a bottleneck at an entrance,
Right.
and when you've got a screener who has to be within 1 foot of everybody that walks through the door. So one of the things that we've had some success with is the temperature scanning equipment. We've deployed a few of the good number of the freestanding kiosks that will allow somebody to pass by just in a second, screen for their temperature, and so that immediately speeds up the traffic, maintains some social distancing. But then beyond that, we can control. For instance, I've got one application where we're controlling power doors based upon somebody coming up to the kiosk with an acceptable temperature and answering some screening questions that are presented at the kiosk. If both of those conditions are met, then we trigger power doors and we let somebody into the facility.
Excellent stuff. Now, in terms of some of the technology, what are some of the major advances that you've seen throughout these unprecedented times?
Well, again, I hate to sound like a broken record and keep going back to the temperature screening, but what happened, it was very interesting. Thermal cameras and things like that have been part of industry for years. They're used in industrial settings to do maintenance on machinery, to find hotspots and equipment. But that technology was very quickly repurposed to screen people at entrances, and so that was good to see. Really, the industry as a whole be that nimble to be able to take an existing technology and not only repurpose it, but then to add features to it that were necessary, such as the ability to present a screening questionnaire and to interface with an access control system. That's been interesting to see how quickly that technology has matured.
Now, in terms of just procedures and policies, I'm sure you had to make some significant changes. So what was that whole process of revisiting and rewriting policies? And, did you leverage any of your colleagues or counterparts in that process?
Yes, we absolutely did. So everything that we do, we're working very closely with the security directors at the hospitals we work at. A big part of my business is working directly with the major hospitals in this area, as well as assisted living centers and other healthcare facilities. But our job as an integrator is to support the security directors, really, who are the practitioners. So my job is to listen to them, try to understand what they're trying to accomplish, and make that happen as quickly as possible from a technology standpoint. I'll give you an example. It's one thing that I was challenged on recently that we're just kind of in the development stages and getting ready to implement. I had one security director who wanted employees to have to pass by a screening camera. If they entered the facility with an elevated temperature, he wants that person's image to be sent to their particular supervisor with a note that they've just entered the facility with an elevated temperature, and then allow them to intervene and take whatever steps are appropriate. So that kind of goes beyond the entry screening, because now we're bringing in facial recognition. We're sending out, we're doing email and text alerts based on certain rules. All very doable, all very easy to accomplish. But I have to take the lead from them to say, okay, this is how this workflow should operate. And then we take that back to our team, scratch our heads, pull in our vendors, and make it happen.
Awesome stuff. Now, out of all the technology that's emerged or that's been, I guess, had an increased usage during this time, what technology do you think is going to have the most staying power?
Well, I think that it will probably be the touchless openings. That is again something that we're being tasked with, as people start to reopen their businesses. They start to bring employees back on site. The demand for touchless openings has definitely risen. So where you can either walk up, your traditional access control scenario where you're just presenting a card, or waving waving your cell phone in front of the door, but then not only having the door released, but actually open for you so that there's no contact. And then same thing when you exit, being able to just wave at a sensor or be picked up by a reader and have those doors open for you automatically. That again, that's a technology that's been around for a while, but it's definitely being refined and definitely becoming much more mainstream. I kind of think of it as the natural progression to, years ago, commercial facilities went to the touchless faucets, right? Where you hold your hand under the faucet and the water comes on. Well, now that's just expected anymore. And I think that is going to work, that idea, that touchless concept is going to work itself more deeply into facilities. So not only are you going to be able to wash your hands, dispense hand soap in a restroom, but then walk out without having to push the door open or pull the door open, and enter a facility again without having to physically push the door.
They're definitely very valuable, well, especially during these times. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I think there's definitely a good use case for that, even beyond a pandemic scenario.
Yeah, I think it's just going to become much more accepted. I mean, if you think back to like 9/11, for instance, which made a major shift in our industry. Prior to that, if one of your friends or family members was going on a plane trip, you walked all the way up to the gate with them, and that was normal. If you were on the plane, you could ask to go into the cockpit and talk to the pilot. I mean, none of those things happen anymore, but
Right.
it's just an accepted it's just an accepted practice now that, only certain people enter the gate area. You don't even bother asking to go talk to the pilot, because then an air marshal is going to get up and talk to you.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Now, behavioral health too is another thing I want to talk about. It's obviously, for a lot of reasons, it's a priority for healthcare security teams. What have been some of the changes that you've seen in relation to interactions or activity in these behavioral health units?
So probably the biggest challenge in behavioral health has come in the residential facilities. So you've got, there are facilities that we work with, and one kind of is on my mind in particular right now, that's a large campus with male and female and military residential units, gymnasium, classrooms. You've got a lot of people living and working together in a confined, secure area. What do you do when somebody in that setting becomes infected? And they can't necessarily be transferred to another ward in a hospital, or it may be preferable to keep them on the campus. So one of the things that's happening is physical spaces being repurposed, for instance, to become an isolation unit that weren't designed for that. So now suddenly we have to make sure that there's negative air pressure in rooms where these people are staying, and there's, we're more closely guarding the access to those areas. But all this has to be done in a physical space that already exists and has to be repurposed to accommodate those people.
Awesome. Now, what are some of the things that you've done to really support some of those changes that have had to happen?
Well, one of the things we've had to do, frankly, is just learn to move very, very fast. Right?
Right.
You'll get a call from a security director, and bed capacity is being pushed, and they have to open up a new area, and there are access controls and physical locking hardware and things that have to go in, but they have to go in yesterday.
Yeah.
And of course, we still have to follow life safety codes and permitting and all those things. So just the realization that those things, when a client asks you to do something like that quickly, they're not just being difficult. There's a real, there's a stress behind that. There are people who need to be moved into different wards, people that need to be isolated, and we've got to do everything we can to try to accommodate those things. And of course, our design input and expertise in the hardware and the electronics, that's something that they're leaning on, to tell us, hey, this is what we have to do. I'm leaning on you to tell me how we can actually accomplish that, and of course how quickly we can accomplish that.
All right. Awesome. Now we've covered a number of topics here. Is there anything I haven't asked you yet that you would like to further discuss?
Yeah, I think that kind of overall big picture, this whole pandemic and our response to it, and the changes that it's forced on us, it really reinforces the fact that we are in a people business, right?
Right.
We're not in a technology business. We're not in a hardware business. We're in a people business. And what we're trying to do on a daily basis is create secure spaces where people can flourish. The particular technology that we use to do that is going to change, but that's what we have to keep front and center. I think it's difficult to prosper in this business if in this whole in the profession of security in general, if you don't honestly like people. And I'm not talking about being an introvert or an extrovert or a specific set of people skills, but just really in your heart saying, I like people, I want to help them. That at the root of it, that's got to be the driving force behind this profession.
Awesome stuff. Now, something I actually want to ask you as well, for anybody who's thinking of maybe either transitioning or starting a career focusing on physical security and the technologies, what advice would you offer?
Well, the best advice I could offer is to find a place where your particular skills will allow you to jump in and then learn from there. Learn what maybe holes in your education you're going to have to fill in, or what new skills you want to pursue. But I mean, there are plenty of opportunities to work as a security officer that don't require at least a deep education for an entry level, and that can lead in a lot of directions. Certainly, most of my time and my focus is on the sales aspect right now. If you've got some basic sales skills, if you're humble and hungry and smart, you can get an entry level job as a salesperson in this industry, and that will expose you to all aspects, all facets, and that can grow into a very very satisfying, very profitable career. So find a place where you can jump in and keep people at the forefront of your thinking, and go for it.
Awesome. Now, as we wrap up, do you have a special message for the Healthcare Security Cast community?
Yeah, just how I've been so impressed with the attitude and the sacrifice of people that I've seen in all aspects of the healthcare community. This has put all of us under unbelievable challenges. That's obvious. That goes without saying. But the reaction, the camaraderie, the innovation, all of those things have actually been very inspiring. So I guess any message I would have would be just keep it up.
Awesome stuff. Now, the next question I ask as we wrap up is, how do we connect with you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Probably LinkedIn would be the best way. I'm on LinkedIn as William Deutsch. So that's probably the best way. Our company website is richmondsecurity.com, and so there is a contact me page on there. But LinkedIn is going to be the easiest way to get in touch personally.
Awesome. Now, if you're checking on LinkedIn, it's William Deutsch, spelled DEUTSCH. Thanks for joining us, Bill. I appreciate your time, and there's a lot of good information here.
Well, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it.
And this concludes another episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. The Healthcare Security Cast is available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music and Audible, and many other platforms as well. Check out our link tree on your computer or mobile device. And this can be found at linktree/Brian Hamilton. That's linktr.ee/Brian, BRINE, Hamilton. Again, that's linktr.ee/Brian Hamilton. Or if it's easier, send me a text at 647-372-2042. That's 647-372-2042. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have or share any links you may be looking for. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, take care and stay safe.